Göbekli Tepe turned out to be what you think it might have been, the place where advanced ancient civilization once inhabited, or they used it.
These pillars dates back 11,600 years. It appears to be purposely buried at the same time of the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe. This is fascinating.
For centuries, Stonehenge has stood as one of humanity's most enduring enigmas, a ring of massive stones rising from the windswept plains of Wiltshire, England, its purpose and origins shrouded in mystery. It has been called a temple, a calendar, a burial ground, and even a prehistoric healing site. Theories have swirled for generations, but every time science gets close to an answer, the monument offers up more questions. Recent archaeological discoveries, however, have begun to shed a startling new light not only on what went on there 5,000 years ago, but also on the people who built and used it. Beneath its ancient soil and scattered around its towering monoliths, researchers have uncovered clues that tell a story of migration, ritual, and a deep cultural link between far-flung regions of Britain.
Case you missed it, a new discovery at Stonehenge has left scientists stunned. Groundbreaking new research has revealed that the so-called altar stone, which is buried at the center of the ring and weighs approximately 6.5 tons and measures 16 feet long, was transported some 5,000 years ago, not from Wales as previously thought, but from northern Scotland, over 400 miles away.
What they've found suggests that Stonehenge was not simply a local project. It was the meeting point of communities separated by hundreds of kilometers, a monument whose stones and souls both traveled long distances to stand in this sacred place. The most dramatic revelations have come from the study of cremated human remains buried at the site. In 1919, excavators uncovered the cremations of at least 58 individuals interred in round pits encircling the monument. These remains were placed in now vanished organic containers, possibly leather bags, and buried during the earliest phases of Stonehenge's construction. Between 3000 and 2480 BCE, the cremation process, brutal in its destruction of organic matter, had long seemed to rob scientists of the chance to learn more. DNA, proteins, and other delicate traces of life are usually obliterated by fire, but a team led by Christopher Sneck at the University of Oxford decided to look not for genetic clues, but for chemical ones, specifically the isotopes of strontium preserved in the bones. Strontium, absorbed from the environment into the human body through food and water, carries a signature unique to the geology of the place where a person lived. Because high heat changes the crystalline structure of bone, cremation can lock in that signature like a time capsule. By reading it, scientists can determine where an individual spent the last decade or so of life. When Snuck's team tested 25 of the Stonehenge cremations, they made a discovery that shook up long-held assumptions. At least 10 of the individuals had not lived anywhere near Stonehenge before death. Instead, their chemical signatures pointed to Western Britain, most likely the Preseli Hills of West Wales, the very same region where the smaller bluestones of Stonehenge originated. This wasn't just a case of hauling rocks across 220 kilometers of rough terrain. It was people, too, making that same journey. Even more intriguing, infrared and carbon isotope analysis of the remains revealed that some bodies had been cremated with wood from dense woodland, wood more common in Wales than in Wiltshire, suggesting that the cremations themselves may have occurred back in their home region. The ashes then were brought to Stonehenge afterward for burial.
How was this huge stone transported from islands off the coast of Scotland onto the British mainland, and then overland all the way to the Salisbury Plain through dense forests and mountains by ancient peoples with supposed primitive tools and without the wheel?
This points to a relationship between communities that went far beyond trade or engineering. It was spiritual, ceremonial, perhaps even political. This link between Wiltshire and Wales wasn't a fleeting one. As archaeologist John Pouncett of Oxford explained, it likely dates back to the earliest days of the monument and continued for centuries. The builders of Stonehenge weren't just locals defending their patch of sacred ground. They were part of a broader network of people connected by shared rituals and beliefs. The monument itself, rising from the chalk downlands, was a collaborative creation, a place where distant groups came together to commemorate their dead and affirm their unity. While the chemical analysis of cremations is rewriting what we know about the people of Stonehenge, another vast research effort has transformed our understanding of the site's surroundings. The Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes Project, a 4-year collaboration between British and Austrian archaeologists, used ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and other non-invasive technologies to scan more than 4 square miles around the monument. Led by Vince Gaffney of the University of Birmingham and Wolfgang Neubauer of the Ludwig Boltzmann Institute, the project revealed more than 15 previously unknown or poorly understood Neolithic structures hidden beneath the soil, henges, barrows, segmented ditches, pits, painted in ghostly detail by the instrument's sensors. These findings suggest that Stonehenge was not an isolated ceremonial circle in an empty landscape as once imagined. Instead, it was the centerpiece of a dense, ritualized environment, part of a network of monuments and earthworks linked by processional routes like the Avenue, which once led visitors from the River Avon straight to the stones. The new data hints at a scale of activity far greater than scholars suspected. The surrounding area was alive with human presence, not a restricted sanctuary visited only by a chosen few. What went on here, processions, feasts, ceremonies, was witnessed by large numbers of people, some perhaps having traveled hundreds of miles. This picture fits well with what has been uncovered at nearby Durrington Walls, a massive settlement dating to the time of Stonehenge's construction. Excavations there have revealed evidence of feasting on a grand scale, with cattle and pigs brought from distant regions, including Wales. It's easy to imagine the builders of Stonehenge gathering here in the winter, celebrating and sharing food before returning to their work on the monument. Whether they came for religious observances, seasonal festivals, or the funerals of honored dead, their journeys speak to a remarkable degree of mobility and connection in prehistoric Britain. Of course, with every answer, more questions emerge. Was Stonehenge primarily a place for the living to gather, or for the dead to be honored? Was it built to track celestial events, to unify far-flung groups under a shared identity, or to serve as a kind of pilgrimage site for healing and renewal? The cremation evidence leans toward a funerary role, at least in its early years, while the astronomical alignments and processional avenues point to ritual observances tied to the sun and seasons. Perhaps it was all of these things at once, a multifunctional monument whose meaning evolved over generations, reflecting the needs and beliefs of the people who used it. Even the engineering feats involved remain partly mysterious. The bluestones, each weighing between 4 and 8 tons, had to be transported from the Preseli Hills to Salisbury Plain. Did people haul them over land on wooden sledges, dragging them along log rollers? Did they raft them along rivers and down the coast before heading inland? Archaeologist Mike Parker Pearson has floated the idea that the stones were carried on large wooden lattices by teams of men. Without direct evidence, we can't know for sure. What we do know is that such an undertaking would have required extraordinary organization, cooperation, and determination. Qualities mirrored in the long-distance movement of people whose remains now lie beneath Stonehenge's turf. The more we learn about Stonehenge, the less it seems like the work of a single tribe or culture. Instead, it appears to have been a focal point for a much wider world, drawing together groups from across Britain, bound by shared traditions and perhaps shared ancestors. The cremated dead from Wales remind us that Stonehenge was not just a construction project, it was a place of convergence, where materials, ideas, and human lives intertwined. The stones that still stand in their ring are only part of the monument's story. Beneath the ground, in the chemical signatures of ancient bones and the ghostly traces of vanished structures, lies the rest, a story of mobility, connection, and a vision of community that spanned hundreds of miles and generations. In the end, the true purpose of Stonehenge may never be fully known. It may remain, as it has for millennia, a monument to mystery, but with every new discovery, every isotope reading, every radar scan, we peel back another layer of its past, replacing some of the myth with tangible human history. And perhaps that is its greatest gift to us, not the answers it withholds, but the questions it inspires, connecting us across 5,000 years to the people who once stood here looking up at the same sky and wondering,